Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing today? Hey, Jew Mariners, good morning. Hope you're well. Just want to make sure it's all good. All right, cool. Everything is streaming. Okay, good. I guess you guys can see me okay, hear me all right. Hope you've been trading well. We had a couple of good trades from yesterday. I just got stopped out on my, well, not just, but got stopped out earlier before this session on my US yen. Not very happy about that, but it happens. Hey Jimmy, how you doing? Good afternoon. Hey Neymar, hope you're well. Hey Jokes, good morning. As usual, if you're new to the session, do drop a message and say hi. Let me know where you're joining us from. And for all the regulars, a big welcome back and good to have you again with me on this 29th of May, which is a Wednesday. I'm losing track of my days, but Wednesday the 29th, we are on our daily market analysis again. If you can help me out, do remember to click that like and subscribe button. I'm sure that would help massively. And if you have any questions at any point in time, please feel free to put into the chat and let me know. Good morning, Diana. How are you doing? Hey, Basanta. How are you doing? Hey, Stefan. Good morning. Now, with that quick disclaimer, any information contained on this webinar should not be construed as advice and is presented as educational material only, as the contents of this webinar are not intended to be a recommendation to trade a financial product. Please remember that your objectives, financial situation and needs has not been considered, and you should consider its appropriateness to your circumstances. Take that away. Good morning, Nav. How are you doing? Hey, Matt. Good morning. Hope you're well. Good to have you with us. Now, what has happened since the last time we spoke? Move that to the side. Okay. Yesterday, Tuesday the 28th, we had a bit of a surprising release from the, well, a bit of a surprise release from the US consumer confidence number, where it was a 97, it got revised up to a 97.5, expected to slow down, and I did think that, you know, there was more likelihood it would slow down. It came out at a surprising 102, so a big boost, a relatively big boost in consumer confidence for the US at 10 p.m. GMT plus 8 yesterday. And with that, and because of that news, we actually saw the dollar index at 10, where is it? There, right? Zoom in a bit. It was consolidating, pushing down slightly, but at 10 because of that strong number. Before that, it started pushing up. That strong number pushed up a little bit, consolidated, and led to a continuation to the upside. I stretched the Fibonacci retracement level down to that 104.33 level where we saw it reverse from. Hang on a second. Ah, man. Okay. And then we saw the price, we saw the dollar index actually climb up to that 50% retracement level. It just got to that point at 1 p.m. or at 12, hit that 50% level, hesitated along that point, and is now pushing back down, right? So it hit 50% retracement here. Ah, man, I'm sniffing like mad. Okay, got to that point, hit the 50%, failed to break 50, and it's pushing back down. So this was last night, and it's coming back down. It kind of got to where we were expecting. Didn't think it was going to move too much. We had 104.90 as a possible target. It got to 104, almost 104.75 before now retracing back down. So that was what happened last night through to today, early this morning, relatively early this morning at 9:30 a.m. We had the Aussie CPI, the inflation growth number year on year. Again, another surprise. it was 3.5%. It was expected to signal a bit of a slowdown in inflation growth from 3.5 down to 3.4, but in actual fact, what we had as a release was a 3.6%. Right, at a 3.6%, this is not great news. Not great news for the Aussie, because it shows or it signals or indicates that the inflation, right, the slowdown in inflation growth, CPI, is being, what's a good word? Is being hindered, right? Lack of a better word, is being hindered. It's not slowing down as they expected. There were, in the last meeting, the last RBA meeting, there was indications that, hey, they would not be adverse towards hiking rates further to try and push inflation down to their 2 to 3% target level. That might spur some additional talk about a rate hike potential, right? We have ideally we have come to the point of talking about a rate cut scenario, but with inflation still sticky and refusing to get to that 2 to 3% target level, it's bringing back some conversations about a rate hike scenario, right? You can see here, stalling this inflation weakens case for RBA rate cuts. Okay, so because of that, on release of that news, the RBA, the CPI for the Aussie, what we saw was the Aussie dollar pushed, let me move that aside. Right, the Aussie dollar went from 664, about 6640, 6641, up to 6666, but generally still consolidating along this 6650 support level. Right, although we had this setup from yesterday, although we discussed this setup from yesterday, looking to sell at 6645 to the downside, you should not, again, if you did get into this trade and you got stopped out on this 20 pip stop loss, big reminder is, firstly, you want it to close below this point to signal that possible continuation to the downside, and you definitely should not be looking to get into a trade at 8 a.m. I know it's very early in the morning. It would be very early in the morning for a lot of you guys, but knowing that there's a news at 9:30 a.m., you shouldn't be looking, even if it does close below that level or the setup that we're talking about, you shouldn't be looking to get into that because there is a news ahead, right? There's a news ahead. So although this would be a potential loss, you should have got into that to avoid that loss. Make sense? Make sense so far? Okay. Then with that, we do have consumer confidence for Japanese slowing down. That's not a big issue. German preliminary CPI month to month looking at a slowdown from a 0.5 to a 0.2. There's no indicated timing for this. This could be released anytime during the day. If it does show that 0.5 down to 0.2, or maybe even a 0.1, that's going to spur the discussion for a rate cut scenario to come from the ECB. Now the question is, do you believe that the ECB would be one of the first central banks? Well, the Swiss already did it, but would they be one of the first other central banks to cut rates? Put it into the chat. What do you think? Cutting rate. Will the ECB be cutting rates in June? Put into, so the question is there on the chat. Let me know. It's a yes or no question. You can say maybe, but you know, it doesn't hurt. Stick your head out there. Let's see, what do you think? Do you think the ECB will be cutting rates in or at their June meeting? Hey Erwin, good morning. How are you doing? Dinah said, I'm okay, considered a small loss on US yen. Yeah, I did that as well. Didn't like the price action, move stop loss a bit tight, otherwise it's all good. All right. I will talk about that shortly as well. Angel Case, Jimmy, Ju Marinas all says yes. Matt says no. I tell you, I'm actually a bit borderline. I think that while the possibility for them to cut rates is there, I actually don't think, I think it might be a little bit early. I think that it still might be a little bit early for them to cut rates this time around. Like, oh, no one said that. Okay. Like Neymar, like Diana, like Matt thinking, not this time around, might be a bit early. Maybe what they might do is signal or do a bit of a forward guidance about a potential rate cut, see the impact of that, a possible impact of that on the euro dollar. Then after that, maybe do that rate cut in September, August or September. Okay. But that's in a still, sorry, I'm sniffing away today. But yeah, that's still a couple of weeks away. We'll cross that hurdle when we get to that. Right. So as I was sharing, if you guys haven't already, do make sure you join the Discord channel. The link is right up there at the top of the chat. But what we're looking at today was the US yen. Right. So I had that set up, pushing, right, looking for it to consolidate along that point, to break to the upside above that previous high, to get in at 157.30, to push higher, right? I got in, I didn't get in, I missed that point, but as I saw it retrace back and started pushing back up again, I got in at that point here. I got in at that point there, sat there, pushed back down a little bit. I was thinking it's going to come down to, so this was my trade. I was thinking that it's going to come down to this point. I was thinking it's going to test 23.6, and if it fails to break 23.6, it could do that. So I was looking for that push up, retrace to test 23, and also the previous swing high, and then push back up. I was looking for that move, but what happened was at 2 p.m., 1 hour before this session, in fact 2:30, 1 hour before this session, we saw the US yen spike to the downside from 157.22 down to 156.89 or 90 very quickly, almost instantly. And the reason for that was because of BOJ's, I've never seen this name so far. I've never seen this name so far, but BOJ's Adachi, might be saying it wrongly, but BOJ's Adachi said that we will be watching, we will more carefully watch long-term interest rates moves. There was another line there that says, oh wait, it's not there. Wait, where was it? There. This was many hours ago, a few more hours, 5 hours ago, where he said that if excessive yen falls impact inflation policy response becomes an option. Then he followed up with that on an hour and 20 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago, saying that we will more carefully watch long-term interest rates moves. Because of that one statement and that one line, we saw, talking about longer-term interest rates moves, talking about potential rate hike scenarios, which they did a couple of months ago, a couple of weeks ago, months ago. We saw the yen strengthen back down briefly, still within the Bollinger, so I anticipate that this might not be a valid move for the medium term. I'm thinking that it might push back down or might sit there and slowly gravitate back down. Okay. Adina is biased for pound long. We'll look into that shortly. Hey Lydia, how are you doing? Okay, so now with that, Not much other news for the rest of the day. And then through tomorrow, nothing much else until we speak, where we have the GDP for the Swiss looking to stay quarter on quarter, looking to stay at about 0.3%. And then the US GDP tomorrow, which I'll tell you about during the session tomorrow. Okay, so for now, what we're looking at in terms of the technical view, because there's no major US news to be released, we've seen the dollar index push down. This was from last Friday through to Tuesday, rebounded up on Wednesday, through Tuesday and Wednesday, resisted along that 50% level. Take all that away. All right, resisted along this 50% level, and then now pushing back down. So what I'm looking at here on the dollar index front would be nothing for now, but if it does break below this 104.50 and that 61.8 level, we might actually see a continuation back down towards 104. A continuation of weakness towards 104. You would also see that this line here, there. Okay, you can see that, and also to a greater extent that way. So it's found the top and pushed down, and it's heading lower, resisted by that 50, came close to that trend line. So what I'm looking at now is on the dollar index. If it does break below, today is the 29th, we're looking at weakness. Right, if it weakness, we're looking for it to break below 104 or 104.50. 104.50, it could trade down to, I don't even think it will get to 104. I think it'll get to about 104.20. Still quite a big drop. It's at 104.60 now. Okay, 104.50, break below 104.50, could trade down to 104 support, but we could also hesitate at 104.20. I don't see a massive move on that. This was yesterday, so the overall move was about 40 pips to the upside. As it pushes lower, I'm thinking that it might come down. It's coming down now, but it might come down to about that point, which is 104.20, about there. So I'll find that whole point as a bit of a support area. We'll keep that. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay. So take that one away. 29th of May, dollar index resisted by that 50% retracement level, looking for it to push lower. If it breaks 104.50, it could trade down to 104 support, but could most likely hesitate at that 104.20 level. All right, I'm happy with that. Then looking at the charts, Kiwi, we spoke about this yesterday, right? I think Jimmy's on the session. I think Jimmy had a Kiwi trade from yesterday. I hope you got out of that trade as it on that final push to the upside. We were looking for it to consolidate along this point It was in that rather wide consolidation, did not push up. So we take that one away. Right, we were looking for the consolidate and then retrace down to that trend line, to that 38.2 level, to that previous swing level, to test and reject and bounce back up. Okay, unfortunately I did not get into this trade because we are on the stream right now, but if you had that set up, this is what you're looking at. 6140, 15 pip stop loss, 35 pip take profit to the upside. This aligns with our view that the dollar could weaken, which would push the Kiwi dollar to the upside. Now, if you did not get into this trade, take those away. If you did not, and this came down to that 50% level, all right, and that trend line. If you did not get into this trade, then what I would be looking out for would be a close of the candle. Test that. All right, I'll be looking at 61. I would like 6150, but that's not going to be a good, because that's only about 20 pip to the upside. But I'll say 6150, 20 pip stop loss, that's just a bit of a hurdle that we're looking at. This point here, if I consider that up there, then I'm looking at this move up 35. I like that. Bollinger's okay. All right, so 6150, 20 pip stop loss, 30 pip take profit. If it pushes up, then you might even be able, once it gets to about this point, you'll be looking to put this to break even and then look to run it up further towards the resistance of 6220. Okay, but for now, that's the setup we're looking at. Very nice. All profits out in profit before going, all trades closed out in profit before going to bed. Very nice. Good stuff, Jimmy. All right, so Kiwi dollar 6150. We're looking at a 20 pip to a 30 pip move to the upside. You can even go 35. Yeah, I'll keep that. Then we could also have potential further upside from that as well. Now, with that thought about the Kiwi dollar bouncing off the trend line and that 50% level to push up, looking at the Aussie, that would not have triggered before the news, so you take that away. Now again, look at that pattern. It's got up, it's tested, it's pushing, looking like it's pushing higher, especially if we do see that dollar weakness come back into play or continue to the downside. I would, because it's in this range, I would wait a little bit more. I would be looking at getting in above 6680. Take profit at about 45 pips. Stop loss would be about 20 pips. I don't need to go all the way down to the support because I think that's a bit too wide. You can do that for 1:1 to the upside, but I think that if it does go test up and retrace back down, we could see it push up a lot lower. So I would be happy with my stop loss at 20 pips here. Okay, so Aussie dollar, I'll be looking at 6680, 20 pip stop loss, 45 pip take profit to the upside. We won't go for a flip view, we'll be looking at buying at 0.6680, stop loss 20 pips, take profit 45 to the upside. This would also be supported with the idea that, hey, CPI is at 3.6% for the Aussies. The discussion, the possibility, I don't think it's a real possibility, but the rumors and possibilities and sentiments of a potential rate hike from the RBA is there, could bring the Aussie dollar higher. Ultimately, the slight removal of a rate cut decision is going to likely spur the Aussie higher. So we're looking for that push up. Okay, and that's why I'll be looking at that. Now, looking at the US yen, not happy that I lost my trade on that. Take that away. Now that it's broken back down, it came down to that 61.8 level from that breakout, and it's sitting right there. That is done. We can take that away. We'll take these away for now. What I would like to see, I don't, they haven't done anything. There's just been a bit of a jawboning from one of the members of the BOJ, right? And that's caused that spike to the downside. What I'm looking at here, that's a big move. All right, I'm happy with that. I would like to see, I'll move this line down to this point here. Okay, take that away because that's done. We have this high point here. It's hesitating right now. It came down to test 61.8, it's bounced, it's sitting there right now. What I would like to see here on the US yen would be that it stays above that point. It stays above 156.70, then I will be looking for that bounce back up, or I'll be looking for a break to the upside. This might take a bit longer. I want to see that move instead. So I'll be looking for it to come down, test 156.70, bounce off this level. I'll be even happy with 156.80. Stop loss again about 30 pips. Take profit back up here to about 60 pips to the upside. Gets past this point, you could be looking for continuation higher. Okay, hey Lingopedia, how are you doing? Good morning. So test and bounce 156.80. Stop loss 30, take profit 60 to the upside. Okay, it's sitting there. If it does break up, then you could also be looking at that move higher, 157.50, 45 pip move to the upside, stop loss tight about 20 pips that way. But ideally, I would like to see that move more, the first option more. Okay, then on to the one that Diana is talking about, looking for a long on the pound. I was signaling out, I signaled this out to, well, I don't like saying signal, but I highlighted this out to you guys on the Discord channel. And this is why you have to join the Discord channel, is because this was a setup. We were looking at a test and reject of this area, right? We saw that test and reject of the area to trade down. When it came down, this was at that, I think I highlighted it about that point there. At about that point there, and I said, hey, it's come down good 40 something pip is either you move your stop loss to break even and look to trade it lower, or look to close out along this hesitation level, right? I hope you closed out on that hesitation level. I closed out my trade on that because it is bouncing back up. Now, why is it bouncing back up? Dollar weakness. Dollar weakness driving it a little bit higher. And also what you should notice is that it's just gone and bounced off. I think it's bounced off that 50 or 38.2 level. It's bounced off this area here. Okay, there we go. So now, given that it's bounced off this area looking to push higher, dollar index is still sitting along that point, in fact retracing slightly. I would be looking for this to push up. So I would kind of align with your buyers there, Diana, about about further upside for the pound dollar. Looking at this, if it breaks 38.2, I think it's a bit too tight to be looking at this. 1.2770, 25. Yeah, I see it pushing higher. I just don't see it as an H1 kind of setup. I would be looking at about, that to sit there and push up. We have about 30 minutes to the close. That's a 30 pip move to the upside. That's a 30 pip stop loss. You could be looking at that. I'm actually thinking that it could do, well, it's pushing now, but I could do that, trigger, come back down and push back up again. Right? So I would still be looking at 1.2770, 30 to 30 to the upside. Ultimately, what I'm looking at is maybe even for it to push higher towards that 50 pip level. I kind of like that a lot more. Okay, so so we did that, reject resistance, sell down, we've done that. Now we're looking to buy at 1.2770. Yes, 30 to 50 to the upside. Stop loss 30, take profit 50 to the upside. That hesitation level at 1.2750 worked perfectly for us as well. Okay. Dinah's looking at 35 pip from the fair value. Expectation to bounce up and bounce back. Yeah, push up. Bollinger is fine. Push up, bounce back slightly, and then push up there. Might hesitate slightly at this point, but look for it to test that resistance. Okay, so that's the view for the pound dollar. Then on to the euro. This worked out so nicely. It tested again that resistance area, retraced back down towards exactly where we hit our take profit of 40 pips to the downside. Right, so it tested up, rejected to push down, hit a 40 pip take profit. That is done and dusted. Take that away. Now 50% level held. 50% level held at this point. Pushing back up dollar. We need that weakness for it to push back down. And for this to push up, I would go for a little bit of a different view. I will go for a little bit of a different view. I think that if the dollar doesn't have that big push to the downside, if it just sits in a consolidation, I might even see the euro dollar sit here for a while. right? It might sit there for a while. No big rush to get into the trade. I'll be looking at 1.0860, 1.0865. Stop loss would be 25. Take profit, you have 30 to the upside towards that resistance. We're not talking about big moves well, we haven't been talking about big moves for the last couple of days. Just because prices are in that range, we haven't seen big news that could drive prices in any particular direction. Okay, so I'm looking at 1.08 on dollar weakness scenario, looking to buy at 1.0865. Stop loss 30, 25, take profit 30. Take profit 30 to the upside. There we go. Then on to US Swiss franc. Again, I think I did that as it was happening last night, right? As it was pushing down, we said, hey, watch out for the US Swiss franc and push lower. But we all saw that retrace on the dollar to the upside. We saw the US Swiss franc retrace as well. Now sitting in that consolidation. Right, take that away. It's broken. 50 is there. It didn't get to 50. In fact, it just found 38.2 before bouncing back up. Now, at this point, I am actually thinking, and I kind of like to do this a bit more on the Swiss franc, is to have a bit of an alternate view. Right, is to have an alternate view on the US Swiss franc that if it finds support, along that trend line and bounces, okay, let me just take that away for now. Take that, right? If it finds support along this point and it bounces, I'm looking for a potential if the dollar index strengthens. Right, if it strengthens back as a contrarian view, breaking above that resistance, what you could be looking for in this case would be 9160, 30 pip stop loss at a very maximum. Take profit of 65 to the upside. All right, totally contrarian view on that is if the dollar strengthens, then we're looking at buying this up at 0.9160, stop loss 30, take profit 65 to the upside. Because it might just bounce along this and break up. Yep, I like that. Then onto the USCAD, this worked out perfectly. It bounced off this support level, pushing higher. If you got onto that trade as it broke to the upside, you'll be holding to that. I do see that sitting there, right? It did not push all the way up as we was expecting. No Canadian news today. If it fails to break above, oops. So it came up to that point. Where's 50? Came close to 50. It's sitting there. Take that away for now. All right, so if it fails to, if you're in this trade, based on the setup we were talking about yesterday, if the price comes back down below this point, at 1.3650. If it breaks below 1.3650, I wouldn't hold it to stop loss at 30. I might just close out of that because that would mean that big dollar weakness is dragging it lower. But if you're in it, or if you haven't got in it again, then I'll be looking at the same view here. In fact, maybe a little bit higher at 1.3665. Stop loss 30, take profit. I wouldn't go that much. I would go to about just before that, 60 to the upside, just below that point. I don't see any big movements yet, so I'll be looking for that. Okay, so revision on the USCAD setup at 1.3665. 1.3665, stop loss 30, take profit 60 to the upside. Then onto the euro yen. We were looking for that to push up. It could have, this was on Monday that we talked about it. It did push up, would have hit a stop there at 30, but it continued pushing higher. Given that we're expecting the US yen to maybe continue pushing up, whether it's going to retrace and go up or it's going to sit there and go up. But the euro dollar also pushing higher. I would say that generally more upside. There is very high now, but we'll keep that there. That's on H4. Back to the H1, you see it test and bounce. I think nothing in this point here, but if it does break above that high, I would not do anything now. I'll wait for it to break above the high, then you would just go for quick positions, 170.90, stop loss tied at 20 pips, take profit, you go 40 to the upside, and then you can just keep scaling or trading it up. Okay, and then onto pound yen, we did well on that. Looking for it to reject, it did not reject, but it continued higher. Now again, like we talked about on the pound dollar, expecting it to push up, I would say look for it to push higher, but remember that on the pound yen, massive highs right now. So if you're looking at this, we're looking for it to push higher. Needs to break the previous high. At that point, I would even say 200.80 to push higher. Then you'd be looking at, I want to say that you can trade this up, but it's just so high. Right, pound dollar pushing up, that makes sense. US yen sitting there looking at it's pushing up, makes sense as well. Pound yen, you can trade it up higher, but I would say be super careful. It's not a, it's break above 200.80, stop loss tight 20 pips, take profit 50, and then again you just keep trading it up. But I don't see any major correction coming back into play unless the Bank of Japan comes up with something, or we see the pound dollar crash back down. Okay, then on to gold. Was looking for it to bounce off, to push up. It's still within that channel that we were talking about, that flag, that bearish flag, but it's still trading there. Oddly, you see again break of that correlation, dollar index pushing down, but yet we're seeing gold push down. What I'll be looking at, or what I'm interested in at this point, is that if it breaks this level, breaks out of this channel, you could see it hit lower, breaking from the correlation. Technically, we should be, as dollar index pushes down, we should be looking for this to bounce back up. But it looks like it's priming to move lower to retest that 2320 or 2330 level. So it's a bit illogical at the moment. Well, not a bit, it's very illogical at the moment. It's broken 23, it's coming towards 38 and pushing lower. I don't like trying to sell this down. I'll say if you're going to sell it down, be very careful. Be extra careful. I know you're very careful, but be extra careful. I would say that if it breaks below 2350, if it breaks below 2350, we could see it get to 2330. Right? So gold, if price breaks 2350, could head lower to 2330. And breaking from that correlation, continuing to break from that correlation from the dollar index. Okay, short and sharp. Hey, Michael Dollar, how are you doing? Sorry, I just saw your message there. Short and sharp, I'm sniffing away today, so I'm just going to keep it straightforward. I think that it's retracing on the Kiwi, so not ready yet. Aussie, a bit more waiting, needs to break out of this area. US yen sitting there. I want to see it push back down a little bit before it goes back up. Pound dollar, yes, sitting there. If it sits there a little bit longer, might not retrace as much, but just push up. But we're looking at that pattern. Euro dollars, I hope it does consolidate. That would make it quite straightforward for that bounce back up. So we're looking at it consolidating like that, and then a break to the upside. If it sits there, I might even be tempted to push this a little bit lower down to 1.0860. Right? But I need it to sit there for a little bit longer first. If not, then we'll keep it at that. US Swiss franc sitting there, US CAD. I could take that away, can't see my candle. But sitting there looks like it could push back up. Dollar index, we are looking for it to trade lower. What might happen is that it could sit there for a while, test, and then push back down again. But generally looking at that weakness to come from the dollar index. Jimmy said another scenario is for it up to 23.75 and back down on gold. 23.75 could be, but given the way it's pushing down, seemingly a bit stronger, we'll be looking for it to, if it breaks. If it doesn't, then it could bounce back up. 23.70, do that, and we're looking for that break. But the way it's moving, I'll be trying to see if that's going to happen. Maybe to be a bit safer, I would say 23.45. Change that. Give it a bit more space to move. If it breaks 23.45, we'll look at the downside. Okay, US 100, where is it? US 100, still pushing up. I've been terrible at the indices because for me, indices, I just look to buy and hold it up. Again, that correlation is broken, right? That consolidation, that pushed up, consolidation there. I would say more upside, but every time I say more upside, it's the next question is how much higher can it go? It just looks like it's gonna keep going higher. Yeah, the chart is a lot cleaner. But it does look like it's going to go higher, but I just can't find a target level that it could get to. Okay, not a lot to add to that, unfortunately. Neymar saying, does it look like an inverse head and shoulder on the dollar index? I see what you're saying. You're looking at that shoulder here, a head, and then for it to come back down, maybe a shoulder at that point with the neckline formed at that 50. Yes, I see that. Might need it to come back down a little bit more, and if it bounces back up, that could. That's a very good spot there, Neymar. Thanks for sharing. Yes, possibility of that as well, but might take a little bit longer to develop. I wouldn't do it just based on that one tail. Thanks for sharing. All right, so yes, thanks, Matt. Have a good day. Thanks, Stefan. Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks, Jumarinus, Angel Case, Diana. Hope you all trade well, trade safe. I'll see you on Discord. If not, I'll see you all tomorrow, same time, same place. Take care now. Thanks, Nav.